more resilient, and helping Michigan's manufacturing sector get back on its feet. There are benefits to both the vehicles and the power grid in such a marriage, and just a couple of examples. A smarter grid will benefit us by providing us with tools to manage energy more intelligently. For instance, controls that program certain appliances to run only during off-peak periods, eliminating the need for what we call peaking plants. Those are power plants that generally run only when there's high demand. Cutting both cost and emissions. If smart grid provisions are combined with net metering laws and feed-in tariffs, and we can talk about what those are all about too. I think some of you probably already know. If they are combined with net metering laws or feed-in tariffs, solar panels, wind turbines, and other renewable assets installed at your home, it will also eliminate the need for as many of these peaking plants. Through this smart grid monitoring, power management systems, utilities will be able to do more with existing infrastructure, managing power flows in ways that slow the need for new transmission lines to be built. We won't have to build as many. We'll have to replace some because the grid's in bad shape. In some places, it's over 100 years old. We'll have to replace some, but not build nearly as much if we can do it in that smart fashion. And frankly, Michigan companies like Whirlpool, among many others, may see new opportunities to develop smart grid-compatible appliances and devices. I think if you went on the web or you looked in any, probably even in Williams-Sonoma, you start to see that some of these appliances are becoming available. It brings benefits to the other side of the equation too, to the electric vehicles. Because electric motors are so much more efficient than internal combustion engines, they produce 30% fewer greenhouse gas emissions per mile than gas engines do, even if the power they consume is from a 100% coal-fired plant. Because electrical lines are easier to run, everybody's got one somewhere near them, and to maintain, as opposed to gas pipelines, storage tanks, pumps, outlets for charging vehicles could one day be as much more ubiquitous than gas stations are today. They probably will be. I can tell you right now, we've had folks from the DIA come over to our shop and talk to us about the next time they put a parking lot up, if they ought to put in a line, in case folks begin to think about having electric vehicles pull in and charge while they're in looking at the exhibition. And electricity has the potential to be a much cheaper source of energy for propulsion than gas is. Currently, the off-peak electricity most people use to charge the hybrid electric vehicles they're running costs the equivalent of about 75 cents to $1 for gasoline. Obviously, there's an analog you got to go through to get the number, but if you look at how much electricity runs a car, how many miles, and how much gas takes to run that same distance, and do the math around, what, 285 or so, 275 today? It falls in about that range. And of course, in some circumstances, these plug-in hybrid electric vehicles will be ideally suited for use with renewable assets. For instance, the wind tends to blow harder at night in a lot of different places. And by intelligently managing the timing of vehicle charging, for instance, through a time of use price scheme established for the utilities, these electric vehicle owners can harness this excess energies at times at night when few other electrical devices are drawing power. All of that's good. And even with that, there are even more synergies or benefits to each other between the two. Without time of use pricing and other intelligent smart grid approaches to managing the timing of grid power consumption, many owners are likely to charge their cars during the same peak demand periods of the evening, overwhelming the grid. But with these approaches, such problems will be minimized and perhaps they will be eliminated. And final plus for us all, the batteries in these vehicles may in time serve as storage devices for excess energy generated by renewables and feed this energy back into the household grid as needed. Good for power outages also. We'll be soon, I think, at a place where the next time the ice storm takes your power lines out, you'll find yourself an opportunity to plug your car back into the house and run the house, maybe for a few hours. We're not that far away. It's clear that smart grid and PHEVs, I put PHEVs here when I always say plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, offer a lot of advantages. And Detroit is a place that has already realized success on both fronts. Detroit Edison and a company called A123 Battery Systems, you may have heard of them, have received recently a $5 million grant from the DOE to demonstrate the use of electric vehicle batteries in a community energy storage demonstration. And they're using solar power with it too, and I'm proud to say that Next Energy is a part of the team that will help to carry out that demonstration work, trying to understand what are the different complex processes and infrastructures that have to be in place for all of this to work well and seamlessly for people like you and me, because as Americans, we're used to cheap and readily accessible energy. You may not know it, but Detroit was the first American city to have an electric taxi service. Began in 1914. Years later, in the 1980s, DTE used a Department of Energy grant to test the on-road performance of electric vehicles also, and today it is engaged in groundbreaking collaborative efforts with GM and other electric vehicle manufacturers. And that includes a little committee that we put together called the Plug-in Ready Michigan Team. It includes DTE and General Motors and Next Energy and some others, coordinating in that effort to get a public and private charging infrastructure in place before the launch of the Chevy Bolt this November. Some of you know, I think there's about 1,000 or 2,000 Bolts out right now around the country, running to see how things will go. We're going to be involved with them on an even a more intimate relation in helping to see as this flood of vehicles goes out in November, how we can make sure that flood is a good one, not a bad one. It's also clear, however, that there are challenges associated with the smart grid. With the amount and kind of data that's already being captured by smart meters in some places, privacy, in fact, is a critical issue. What if your auto insurance company found out that your garage light turns on every morning at 2:15, just after the bars close down? What might that infer? And even if it's true, what business is it of theirs? Could information captured by a smart meter ever be used by the police or in a court of law to verify testimony? Where were you last night? I was home watching TV. It's not what your electric company says. Most of you will be relieved to know that utilities are legally prohibited from sharing tax ratepayer data with third parties. For now. But when national interests are on the line, could the government subpoena such data? I don't know for sure, but I kind of wonder. For the lawyers in the room,